Welcome into a special after hours for this week of November 20th. And you see, I'm not Stephen Ruffing. Normally when after hours opens up, Steve's hosting, talking entertainment, politics, whatever. But we're originally going to have an after hours this week with the holidays coming up. But then Saturday happened. 5 top 10 upsets in college football, and we had to have one. Talk about this, one of the craziest weekends in college football. My name is Matt Hagy, and alongside of me is my normal panel of college football talkers. We do second set: Danny Beck, Anthony D'Agostino, Dylan Gaudet. Guys, this was a week of what makes college football so great is the fact it's unpredictable. You have no idea what's going on. Gotta love it. Yeah. You wouldn't see this in the NFL, I'll tell you that.
Definitely not. I don't know what you're going to say, Anthony, but all of these down-to-the-wire games, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Everyone tries to predict what's going to happen in college football. You know, we got the college football playoff, the rankings, analysts all over the place trying to predict what's going to happen in college football, and you just can't do it. Every time you think you're right, something crazy happens like
Wrong.
This week.
And just this year's been all unpredictable, and now the job of the playoff committee just got even tougher.
We'll talk about the rankings later on in the show, but we need to talk about first how we got to this point of crazy. We'll talk about the 5 games that made this Saturday unbelievable. We're going to start in the SEC with the number 10 ranked team, Auburn, playing Georgia in the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Auburn led 7-0 halftime. This is one of the first plays of the second half here. Maurice Smith for Georgia, he's going to take a Shaun White interception back to the house here to tie the game at 7. Georgia would add 2 field goals. Their defense was holding strong. 13-7, Georgia led over Auburn here. Now Shaun White's trying to get something going here. 4th down, incomplete, and it gets even worse that Shaun White might actually be injured for the Auburn Tigers. So Auburn was a team that we thought if they went out to the Iron Bowl, that if Auburn beats Alabama, hey, they might be in the college football playoff conversation. But Georgia, a good defensive team, knocked out Auburn and pretty much silenced that.
Yeah, a good defensive team, but not a very healthy offensive team. Obviously, you know, Nick Chubb and all that stuff happened. I think, did he go on to the NFL?
Todd Gurley.
Oh, Todd Gurley, that's who it is. Okay, so, but their running game isn't the same, and their offense, I guess, just pulled it out of anywhere and beat Auburn.
Well, it was, I mean, you never know what was going to happen. Auburn was kind of, they struggled earlier in the season, but now with Shaun White out, put John Franklin the third in. Last chance here. That would be fun to watch. So we're going to stay in the SEC. Let's move up to the number 8 team, Texas A&M. They're playing Ole Miss, probably the best 4 and 5 team you're ever going to see. A&M looks like they're going to rout Ole Miss without Trevor Knight as well. Ole Miss is also without Chad Kelly, but you can see here, Shea Patterson, he's looking like a former Texas A&M Aggie on this play. Johnny Manziel is going to reverse his own field and throw the end zone there. Ole Miss not done yet here in the 4th quarter. But watch this catch here by DeMaurice Stringfellow.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, you could believe that was on SportsCenter Top 10. So Ole Miss is rolling here. It's going to be a replay coming up right here. Look at that catch.
That's just keeping up with the ball no matter where. You can see his eyes following all the way into his chest. Unbelievable
He's
catch.
even getting his other arm held back, and he still made it with one hand here. So here's more of a Shea Patterson. Finds his other receiver there for the touchdown. Cuts the lead to 2. All they need is a field goal coming up here for Ole Miss. They get some stops, and Gary Wunderlich passes the Wunderlich test and gets Ole Miss a 1-point lead with 25 seconds left. And they're going to need one more stop here on Texas A&M. You can see Shea Patterson's happy. Maybe the future's bright in Ole Miss without Chad Kelly, but here's A&M. He gets picked off there to close out the game. So number 10 goes down. Number 8 goes down. 2 SEC schools. Texas A&M, a couple weeks ago, we're thinking, hey, they're 4th. They were 4th in the college football rankings. After they got the number 4 ranking, they lost to Mississippi State, and now Ole Miss. They don't like the state of Mississippi.
No, definitely not. That was unbelievable that 2 teams from Mississippi beat them, and right now, Texas A&M, they're going to find themselves again.
Yeah, and Dylan, I know you like Ole Miss. You like Ole Miss. So you had, as a struggling season that this has been, you had to be happy with this result with Shea Patterson.
Yeah, definitely. That team's way too talented to be 4 and 5 heading into that game, and now they're back at 500. But Shea Patterson's a guy very well recruited by almost every big powerhouse team in the country, and Ole Miss was lucky enough to get him. A little premature coming in there with Chad Kelly getting hurt, but now he played a great game last week, and they look to lean on him for the next few years to come.
You got it in Ole Miss. I believe they have it's bad team week in the SEC where they schedule all those FCS schools. So, but then they got the Egg Bowl in 2 weeks against the Mississippi State team that's got clobbered by Alabama. That's the one team that made it out of last week because Alabama took care of business, and that's why they're the #1 team in the country right now. So, 2 upsets in the SEC. We're not done yet, though, at upsets. So let's move to the game of the week in Seattle, Washington. Pac-12, USC, a much improved USC team, and #4 Washington, new to the college football top 4 rankings here. Game day was there. It was exciting. Washington's undefeated. Jake Browning's a Heisman contender. And that is the Trojans are going to come in here. They made life miserable for Jake Browning. He's going to get picked off here by Adoree Jackson. Great interception. We're going to be seeing a little bit more of that guy right there, Jackson. That's just great concentration there to grab the pick. And Washington wearing some nice jerseys. There's the real story, though, here. Sam Darnold has been the reason why USC has won 7 straight games. He finds Darius Rogers there in the end zone. USC looking good early on. Now, Washington got a touchdown. They're coming back. USC blocks the field goal. Everything Washington tried to do in this game, USC had an answer for it, and it's just the Trojans. I mean, Washington's the one who's the top 5 team. USC, they pretty much looked like they were a top 5 team there.
Yeah, and their wide receiver core, I think led by that, what's his name, Juju Schuster-Smith?
Juju Schuster. He didn't have a touchdown in this game, but you can see here, Adoree Jackson making more life miserable there for Jake Browning. 2nd pick right there. But Juju Schuster, I saw Darius Rogers, and then the last touchdown where was this is probably one of the greatest names I think I've ever seen. Daniel Imator Bibi. You should see how that's spelled. I've got it out, hyphened it out in my paper how to say it, but it's a whole man. I thought it was a spelling error for a second there. So USC takes down the #4 team. 3 top 10 upsets there. Well, USC, gotta give it to them. They're the most improved team. There were people wanting Clay Helton fired at the end of the season when they were 1-3. Kudos to the Trojans to turn it around.
Yeah, definitely a great comeback there. And you just knew teams like Washington and those Texas A&M teams, they're playing much better than their talent really stated there. So they fell back to earth, and now it's a dogfight for all those top teams now to try to finish out the season. Now they do have rivalry week coming up in 2 weeks, which is a big statement week for a lot of teams. So all teams have all the pressure on them now.
Yep, and I like how you used dogfight there for Washington with the Huskies. That was good. Much prop there. So let's go to the ACC. Now, when you see Pitt Clemson, especially if anybody's watched Pitt's defense here this year, they're trash. I mean, I'm just going to be flat out saying Anthony and I were at the Pitt Virginia Tech game, and Virginia Tech's receivers just made them look bad. So coming into this game, you think Clemson, they're going to rout them. They're at home. But Clemson played down to some teams this year. So let's get to the highlights here it starts off here. Regardless, Dylan, I know you hate Pitt more than anything, but you got to feel good for this guy right here. James Conner doing some work.
Yeah, definitely. That's a feel-good story. That's one of the best feel-good stories you could have in college football, and great to see him back and healthy.
And then Scott Orndorff here, he had a big game at tight end here, but this game just kept going down to the wire. And Deshaun Watson, you're going to see a little graphic on the screen here. You find Artavis Scott, 321 passing yards in the first half.
Oh my gosh, that's unheard of.
So, I mean, it makes sense with Pitt. But Pitt's secondary comes up big right here late in the game. Salim Brightwell, that's 3 interceptions on the day for Deshaun Watson and sets Pitt up down 8 points here with 5 minutes left that they can get this done. They have a chance. Pitt's happy. But coming up here, it's that guy. Not all superheroes wear capes, but this guy's pretty much a big inspiration. James Conner getting Pitt within 2. They went for 2. They missed it. Clemson, I don't know why you're running that play on 4th and 1 to give Pitt a chance here. Pat Narduzzi's running, wait, this seriously happened? They didn't throw on my defense? That's awful. So Chris Blewett, great name. Everybody's thinking, hey, he's going to blow it, but he made it. Pitt knocks off Clemson. It just kept getting better and better and better and better. I have no words. I'm speechless.
Back on that Clemson game,
yes.
When I was watching the game, the announcers after that one Pitt interception that led to that field goal, not interception, it was the stop on defense that led to that field goal there. There was a penalty, I believe, on Clemson. It was 4th down. it would have been Clemson Bowl. They would have ended up winning it, but the referees called a phantom holding call. There was no holding anywhere, and they give the Pitt Panthers the first down. They drive down the field a little bit more, kick the game-winning field goal. And well, that may have ended up winning the game. Was that phantom holding call? Clemson should not have been in that position. They should have blown out this team. And for them to not having coming into this game, in my opinion, ready to play this Pitt team is a shame.
And Anthony, I'm going to just run across Deshaun Watson's passing numbers here. ACC record, 580 yards passing and 70 passing attempts. I believe he completed 58, if I remember that correctly. 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So you have, but it's again 3 picks. 3 picks against a bad secondary. Dude.
What you were talking about when you said that, like that phantom call and all that, I was just gonna say that it shouldn't even have come down to that. A Clemson team ranked 2nd in the nation, losing to a Pitt team that, as you were saying, awful defense.
Awful defense.
Deshaun Watson still just exposed everything about this team. I mean, going forward, Pitt's not going to really be doing anything.
No.
But still, it's 580, 70 passing. Like, that's insane. That's crazy.
Even just something about Pitt playing number 2 teams in the country.
You don't say.
Something.
You don't say.
I'm just saying.
13-9.
Bad experiences with that. But back to the series. Clemson's had those close games all season. It was just a matter of time before they can't finish it out. And you thought that they were the team of destiny, maybe, and they kind of got that exposed last week.
With all those games, but NC State, Troy, they barely won those games. So
I was just going to say that. They've played bad, quote-unquote bad teams before, and it's been very close. And finally, they played another lesser team, and it was close, and they ended up blowing.
Yeah, they weren't good. I mean, NC State had a chance to win the field goal.
right.
Yeah, exactly. The field goal there. But so with all this happening, let's go to the good Saturday night game. This was actually one of the games that everybody thought, hey, if there was an upset, this could be at Michigan, Iowa City. Bad things happen in Iowa City. Jim Harbaugh's first game back in Iowa City since he lost as a quarterback in 1985. The result was very similar. You can see Michigan looked like they were going to blow them out. Iowa, a week after getting embarrassed by Penn State, gets a safety here on Michigan. Now, C.J. Beathard, he continues going to Akrum Wadley. He makes it 10-8. They missed a 2-point conversion. Iowa's still hanging in there. Wilton Spite, we'll get to what happened to him in a second. He throws a big interception here by Manny Rugamba to stop the Michigan drive. Now, Michigan had the ball back against Iowa. Michigan's defense was doing their job. Here's the punt. Here's a punt return, and Iowa's already going to have good field position to try to just get a field goal to win. Then there's a face mask penalty right there called on Michigan. You can see McCray. He's thinking, "Oh no, I didn't do it," but it was a weird face mask. I don't have it up there, but he kind of like glided his hand across. Some people, I mean, Jim Harbaugh not happy about it. So it sets Iowa up with great field position. Now C.J. Beathard does his job, sets the field goal unit up for Keith Duncan to come in here right up the middle. Really, you can't get it more script up better than that, where you can start kicking it. Almost goes to the right, but he just sneaks it in. And for the 5th and final top 10 upset of this week, Michigan loses to Iowa, 14-13.
All I remember is seeing, I believe it was Michigan State's kicker running down the field. He's like swimming his arm. I thought he was going to do that, and then he just falls.
He just
like,
fell.
It was like
He didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do.
Kind of like a
He didn't know what
soccer
to
celebration,
do.
just like a fish, like a dead
Wow.
fish. Amazing.
This is good stuff.
Is Iowa going to play again at night? Because if they are, look out.
Hey, that's, like I said, bad things happen in Iowa City. But the funny thing is, back in 1985, Iowa beat Jim Harbaugh with a field goal, just like that. The last second, it was another low-scoring game. But yeah, Iowa gets a big win after Penn State slaughtered them at Beaver Stadium 2 weeks ago. So Iowa keeps it going, but their season's still kind of not what they wanted after being unbeaten in the regular season last year. So those were the games. 5 top 10 upsets. How the rankings look that were released on Tuesday. You're going to find out next here on After Hours Upset Saturday.
Walk-off winner. Right through, and the Hawkeyes have stunned the Wolverines. Michigan unbeaten no more. Done the unthinkable. They have rocked Clemson's world and shaken up all of college football.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
Talking about inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
One decision, endless possibilities. California University of Pennsylvania opens your mind to more than 130 programs of study. Programs that matter to business, to justice, to our environment, to the future of our world. California University of Pennsylvania, because the world is waiting for you.
Visit or apply online, calu.edu.
Rankings time here on After Hours Special Upset Saturday. So with 5 top 10 teams going down, Michigan, Clemson, Texas A&M, Auburn, Washington, these rankings were going to be a mess. And it's what we love about chaos. Is, you know, it's a how did the Joker say it in The Dark Knight? It said when everybody, everything goes to plan, nobody freaks out, but when it doesn't go to plans, everybody loses their minds. He's like, he wanted to instill a legion of chaos. And this is exactly what, there is a legion of chaos put on the College Football Committee to come up with these rankings. Controversial rankings. Mm-hmm. So without further ado, let's see what they're looking like. And we're going to start breaking these down one by one. Alabama, they won. No surprise there. They crushed Mississippi State. Still leading their own. Danny, talk about Ohio State.
Ohio State is just one of those teams that just keeps rolling on. You know, they call it roll tide. They're just rolling through their schedule this season. It's impressive to watch.
And Anthony, Michigan stayed right where they are. They got lucky.
Yeah, very lucky that, you know, they're at number 3 still. Couldn't believe that. And Clemson number 4.
Yeah, Dylan. Clemson, again, a team that you put Louisville in, but they lost to Louisville. I mean, they beat Louisville, remember?
Yeah, I think you have to put the head-to-head as the advantage for Clemson there.
And you can see those are the top 6 rankings out of this upset Saturday week. Alabama won, Ohio State, followed by their rivals Michigan, Clemson, Louisville, and Washington. Washington, I think, could have dropped a little bit farther because, guys, at least in my opinion, you have the rankings in front of you, and I also have the schedules for the upcoming teams so we can look at this as well. But Washington, they looked really bad. I mean, so did Clemson. They had a lot of turnovers. They still put up a lot of points. Michigan, defense played well. Washington looked awful, and they're still 6. Not Wisconsin, not anybody else.
Looking at these rankings, I think I know why they put them there. While, yes, they looked bad, but if you look at their record, all these records look very similar in the top 6, 10-0, and then everything 9-1 until you get to number 7, Wisconsin, who's 8-2 with Penn State. I think they honestly went by record. At least it's what it looks like on paper.
Yeah.
I was looking, whenever you're talking about how bad Washington looked, and you also mentioned how good Clemson still looked good.
Yeah,
they still looked on
offensively.
It's just, Pitt was just firing on all cylinders with James Conner.
They were it that day.
Exactly. And I know Michigan, you said their defense was playing well. And Michigan, they stayed at the same spot.
Literally at the same spot.
Clemson dropped 2 spots.
They stayed in.
They stayed in and all that stuff. Louisville, they're not getting any love. Their one loss is to a one-loss Clemson school that lost to Pitt.
The committee valued head-to-head, and it shows right here because Wisconsin's still below both of them after Wisconsin lost to both Ohio State and Michigan, followed by Penn State. And then, Danny, I'll talk about this with you here. The Big Ten East scenario is becoming it's becoming something that I don't think we've ever seen. The possibility that we could have two teams from the same conference and one not even winning the conference, especially if Ohio State wins out and beats Michigan, and Penn State wins against Rutgers, they will. But then they got to play Michigan State, who, while their record's not very good, still Michigan State. They'll play them tough. It's for a trophy, land-grant trophy. But talk about some chaos here in this Big Ten.
Yeah. I was just, when I was shuffling over the papers, 11/26, that is the Saturday after Black Friday, Michigan and Ohio State play.
Yep, at noon. I don't know, it's noon.
Big Ten championship, like what you were talking about, the Big Ten championship.
That's going to be the Big Ten East representative. We know Wisconsin's going to be the West. So
it's going to be Black Saturday on that day for one team. It's going to be absolute madness.
Yeah.
That really is the third playoff game, I guess, if one team doesn't make it. It's still a huge game.
It's an early playoff game. I mean,
most definitely.
I mean, because Penn State beat Ohio State, and if Michigan beats Ohio State, that means that Michigan Penn State will be tied with one loss in the conference. Michigan crushed Penn State 2 months ago, so Michigan's in the representing. So they're fine then. Ohio State beats Michigan, Penn State wins out. That means Ohio State and Penn State each have one loss. Michigan has 2. Penn State upset Ohio State, remember, so that means Penn State, who lost to Pitt, got crushed by Michigan, looked terrible, and then they can be playing Wisconsin for a spot in the playoffs there, which is crazy to think about. Credit Trace McSorley. Saquon Barkley is a guy that he was not going to be on the Heisman discussion, but he's having a heck of a season. That's putting up some numbers, maybe for next year for the Heisman. But it's crazy that could be. I mean, it's almost not fair, the fact that what if Ohio State wins out and Penn State goes on and it doesn't matter. Penn State or Wisconsin probably will get a spot. Do you agree? 2 teams out of this conference? No.
What I was going to say was that if all that pans out exactly the scenario that you were talking about, Penn State has the head-to-head over Ohio State. Say Ohio State loses to Michigan. Where does that put Penn State?
I don't know.
You might see them, and they value the committee values championships.
Yes.
And a Big Ten championship, if Penn State comes out on top of that, what does that put Penn State in a position to?
And then
it's crazy.
What does the committee put it into the situation where you have Ohio State, a one-loss team, you have Penn State, they say they beat Michigan, and then Penn State goes on and say wins the Big Ten championship. What do you do there if you have a 2-loss Penn State team, Big Ten champion, then you have Ohio State with 1 loss? That's
who has a good resume.
Yes,
because they beat Oklahoma on the road. They beat Wisconsin on the road. They would have a win over Michigan at home, but still a top 5 team. But this was a good point on College Football Live on Wednesday. You put Penn State or Wisconsin at that 4 spot, and Alabama's number 1. That's going to be a terrible game.
Awful game.
You know, I thought you want to have the 4 best teams in the college football playoff. Bama and Ohio State. Ohio State, I think, is probably the closest team to Alabama that can knock them off, and they've proven to beat Alabama off. But if you want the 4 best teams, I'm sorry, Penn State's not one of them.
No.
I'm okay with Penn State just getting the Rose Bowl out of the conference championship game. Let them have their victory, and if they win the conference championship, say it all pans out, they play Wisconsin, say they beat Wisconsin, have them go to the Rose Bowl, keep the Ohio State team that has done so well and only lost to Penn State in a thriller.
Crazy game.
Yeah, crazy game. Let them in the playoffs.
Yeah. So, but there's a couple aspects of these rankings. We start, Danny, you let off the Big Ten one. The next lead we're going to talk about here is the Clemson-Louisville thing. And Anthony, you following Clemson very closely, I'm going to you'll lead this one off here. Clemson stays ahead of Louisville by 1 spot. Because Clemson beat Louisville, but Louisville's playing probably as good as anyone. Maybe even, I mean, they've looked better than Clemson in recent weeks, even though they were down to Wake Forest 12-9 or whatever it was in the 4th quarter. But how can you deny Lamar Jackson the college football playoff? And funny, as we're filming this, Louisville was playing tonight against Houston, so whoever's watching this will know what will happen with Louisville at a good Houston team, even though they down a little bit. But do you agree with Clemson in over Louisville?
No. I think in my playoff ranking system that we do.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that in a second.
I'm pretty sure I had Louisville over Clemson because Clemson lost to an unranked Pitt team Louisville lost to a ranked Clemson team. And in my opinion, I think Louisville hops Clemson, even though it was a tough loss and it was down to the wire.
Yeah, and Louisville was driving at the end there. They could have got that done. But Clemson, credit them, they did get the win. It was one of the better games they played all season. But Lamar Jackson, with those two teams losing, is the Heisman frontrunner. I mean, I saw ESPN doing their thing. They took Peppers out, and take Browning out, obviously.
Yeah.
But they took Peppers, Watson out. They tossed Jalen Hurts in, which is, warranted the way he's playing. Also, D.D. Westbrook, Oklahoma. And also, then they tossed in Pumphrey from San Diego State, who's a good team, really good team, one loss. But then in the next aspect of these rankings, before we get into ours, Dylan, perfect for you to lead this one off. The Big 12. Thought dead and buried that one weekend when West Virginia lost to Oklahoma State and who else lost? Baylor lost to Texas. Yeah, and Oklahoma's making their way up. They're 9th after losing to Houston and the other team they lost to. Oh, Ohio State. So they're undefeated in the Big 12. West Virginia, after losing to Oklahoma State, just beat Texas this past week, and they crushed Kansas, as they should have. So that sets the stage for this weekend here. But I have a problem with West Virginia being 14. Does West Virginia have incriminating photos against people in the committee or something that's keeping them that low? What are they doing here?
I think they realize the talent that WVU has isn't on par with really the top 20. Maybe they just don't have the best talent. They've been finding ways to win games, and I know I'm from West Virginia. I'm a big West Virginia fan. But honestly, though, you have Oklahoma at 9 and West Virginia at 14. I think West Virgia's in a better position to make the college playoff than Oklahoma.
Loss.
Yeah, Oklahoma has 2 losses. So if West Virginia is able to knock off Oklahoma and then knock off the final, they play Iowa State, which should be a win, and then Baylor again at home.
Terrible.
Then they're the outright champion, disputed. They're the outright champion. So I think you have to give it. You have to let West Virginia in if they win out.
Yeah, if they win out,
you have to. Even if Louisville and Clemson both went out and both one-loss teams,
one of them's got to stay out.
Yeah,
one of them's got
to
stay out
in that situation.
Well, and then also, Clemson's gonna have a hard time with Virginia Tech. Although we forgot to mention this though, that I forget how many total top 25 lost was Virginia Tech. Number 13 lost to Georgia Tech, but they're fine since North Carolina beat Duke on last Thursday. So, but West Virginia, I think, is one of the better secondaries that no one talks about because no one gives any defenses in the Big 12 respect, with good reason because, it's not respected. But West Virginia held a Texas team that was averaging over 35 points per game at home. They went to Austin and held them to 20 and got the win. This is a team, but you know what? They're going to sneak up on them. Never know.
Especially, they say defense wins championships, and they can win the Big 12 with their defense.
Yes, they can.
The offense may not be on par, but that defense may be one of the best in the country just because they have to play high-powered offenses week in and week out.
It's going to be tested with D.D. Westbrook coming in with Baker Mayfield. Oklahoma's playing some good football. The real winner out of this upset crazy Saturday, the Big 12, absolutely. So let's talk about our rankings. The 4 of us plus our director, Ryan Kaufman, 5 of us put together our top 6. This is what we came up with. Alabama, Ohio State stays the same, but look at this right here. We like Louisville and also Michigan at 4, and then we have Clemson out, and we put Wisconsin in there. Yeah, we have an issue with Clemson.
Yeah, and I have an issue with trying to make this list as well. Very tough to make this list. I would not want to be in the same room as the committee that sends this list out.
Yeah.
I think
we experienced it.
They push something out, and I guess they're going to really evaluate if they made the right choices.
We criticized the committee a lot, but, when we made all these rankings, that's tough. And there's 20 people in the room trying to, make their input. So, all right, well, it's going to do it for the rankings. And we have one more part of the show. We're going to preview into this next weekend. If it was anything like this past weekend, oh, boy, it's going to be fun. Couple weeks to go into college football season. But we got one more segment left. Stay tuned. Upset Saturday here on After Hours.
Got a quarter?
one decision, endless possibilities. California University of Pennsylvania opens your mind to more than 130 programs of study. Programs that matter to business, to justice, to our environment, to the future of our world. California University of Pennsylvania, because the world is waiting for you.
Visit or apply online. calu.edu.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.
And we're back here for the final segment of After Hours Special, Upset Saturday, right here on CUTV. We're going to dive into this week's slate of games. And we mentioned about Louisville-Houston tonight going on ESPN. By the time this is shown, the game will be over. And who knows? Everything we talked about Louisville could be done. So looking at some of the games here, obvious the big one here. Buffalo, Western Michigan. No, I'm kidding. According to College Game Day, they might like it.
Or Chattanooga and Alabama. Wow.
It's Cupcake.
It's
Cupcake Saturday.
It's
It's Upset Saturday, Cupcake Saturday this week in the SEC. But the game of the week, Morgantown, West Virginia. Oklahoma, West Virginia. West Virginia has not beaten Oklahoma at Milan Puskar Stadium. But, Dylan, is this the week? Is this the week it happens?
They always say there's something about night games in Morgantown, and the atmosphere is going to be rocking, and if West Virginia has anything they've heard all week. I think them being ranked 14th by the College Football Committee really lit a fire under that team. And I think Dana Holgerson's going to thrive on that. Yeah. Let them know that all week and let them just get that in their mind all week. And I think it's going to be a close game. I don't know. I think Oklahoma just might be a little bit more talented than WVU, but anything can happen.
Anything's possible. Yeah, so. And West Virginia's found games to win that they've normally not been able to over the past couple of years.
And another thing, bad weather in that game, which could make an impact.
You're right, especially with Oklahoma. That's the thing. Oklahoma's been dealing with injuries to running back Samaje Perine. West Virginia has Russell Shell. So we'll see what happens there. So that's at 8 o'clock Saturday night. Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit on the call for that one. There's a lot of lopsided matchups here. I mentioned it's Cupcake Week in the SEC. Ohio State at Michigan State, that's a revenge game. Michigan State's still bad, but at East Lansing, anything could happen here. Michigan hosts Indiana. Are they going to be hungover? They don't have Wilton Spite. He has a broken collarbone. But they have John O'Korn now, former Houston quarterback, now with the reins there. Here's an interesting one. I just pointed out here because we have also Washington State at Colorado, which is top 10 Colorado, and 22 Washington State, who's playing some good football right now after losing to Portland State early in the year. Clemson at Wake Forest, and I'm going to pass the schedule of games if anybody else has wants to pick a game out here. But Clemson, why I'm saying Clemson Wake Forest is because it's at Wake Forest, it's at Winston-Salem. Clemson, how are they going to be feeling after this happening here? Wake Forest is 6-4. They're bowl eligible. Everybody will be laughing, Wake Forest, they're awful. I mean, they have been, but trap game, absolutely. At least I think. But if you guys see any other game that I haven't pointed out, just feel free to share.
I mean, the ranking, I guess, would. These two teams have really nothing invested into the top four. But Florida LSU is going to be a pretty good game.
The rescheduled game from Hurricane Matthew, which is funny because that same day that it happened on Saturday, it's completely sunny in Gainesville.
Oh my gosh!
They could have played the game.
So I guess that's
It's a
the
good
only
game.
really
Yeah,
one
it is
that,
a good game.
it points out. Florida LSU, you always see that Leonard Fournette and see if he can continue that. Or his protege, as they've been calling it last week, had a great game as well.
Thank you.
I think upset. Oklahoma State might fall to TCU.
Oh, good call. That is a good call.
very
Yeah,
good
at
call.
TCU's playing better. Yeah.
Oklahoma State, they lost to Pitt early on in the season.
They beat Pitt.
They beat, excuse me.
Central
they beat
Michigan
Pitt.
is what you're thinking.
Yeah, that's who they lost to, and they looked very good against Pitt. But
Yes.
again, that's a team. The Big 12's crazy, and TCU is not having the year they're accustomed to seeing.
Right.
So I think that you're right. That is a
That's a
great
good call.
possibility.
I was thinking about that. Oklahoma State last week played at home with Texas Tech. Texas Tech got a late touchdown, missed the extra point. So that game could have went to overtime. They could have lost. I feel like Oklahoma State, I feel bad because that Central Michigan play, as awesome as it was, never should have happened because of the refs. But you imagine, what if Oklahoma State doesn't have that loss to Central Michigan? They might be up. We might be talking about them in the top
Like we're
six
talking about
because-
WVU's good defense. They kind of made them look pretty
yeah.
bad that
Oh,
game.
yeah.
So I mean, that's
Yeah.
a high-powered offense.
It's a good
they have.
team. It's a very good football team. Some other ones. It's a late night game. USC at UCLA. USC playing as good as anyone right now, but it's a rivalry game. They hate each other. USC, UCLA. They play for a victory bell. They hate each other in Los Angeles. So anything's possible in that one. Let me see. What else
I feel really bad. You were talking about the USC UCLA game. I feel kind of. I mean, I know that they've had to deal with this literally forever. But just having the later games, I feel like not a lot of people watch their games. Which last weekend, I mean, Washington and USC, that was a huge game. People were watching a lot of highlights.
There is a good tweet I saw. Somebody said, "Why isn't anybody talking about Keith Falk for Washington State?" And they said because we're either sleeping or drunk. That's why nobody's talking about him for Washington State. And then tomorrow for Friday game, UNLV at Boise State, they're ranked. Wisconsin at Purdue. I could see because Purdue's tricky, but Purdue. A lot of off-the-field issues this week. I don't know if you saw that with the players.
What about Arizona State, Washington today?
Washington's at
weekend.
home, but they could be Michigan, Clemson, and Washington could also be feeling that hangover effect. And Arizona State with Todd Graham, the whatever they call it, the run and gun offense or high tempo offense that he attempts to run and fails every year.
Yeah, that's 5-5.
So, but yeah, you're right. That is a possibility. That's the thing. We didn't think Iowa was going to beat Michigan. We didn't think Pitt was going to beat Clemson. We didn't think USC was going to beat Washington, although that was a popular upset pick. We didn't think Georgia was going to beat Auburn. We didn't think that Ole Miss was going to beat Texas A&M, but it happened. That's what makes college football so great. So. That's about all the time we have for our After Hours special, Upset Saturday. The next After Hours episode will come after Thanksgiving break. I believe it's a saltine challenge, if I remember correctly. Ooh. So you definitely want. Yes, that's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that one. So, guys, any quick final thoughts?
I'm ready for some football.
Ready for some football. Dylan's waving the American flag. It's America. That's why we love college football. We have college football.
Yep. And
get out to watch a game this Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun this weekend. So that will do it for Danny Beck, Anthony D'Agostino, Dylan Gaudet, Ryan Kaufman, Sarah St. Jacques back in control. My name is Matt Hagy. Thank you for watching, and have a happy Thanksgiving and happy 2 weeks of college football.